Nkechi, how do you respond to those who would suggest that with all the problems that African Americans suffer from today, crime, drugs, inadequate education, illegitimacy, you name it, how do you respond to those who would suggest that we as a people should be focusing in on those problems, and that to focus in on a long-term issue such as reparations is pie in the sky?
Okay, well, all of the issues that you just raised, crime, housing, education, and the like, all of those are long-term issues. What we tend to do is use quick fix, knee-jerk responses that don't really solve or address any of those issues. We need to look at the issue of reparations in concert with all of the other issues that affect each and every facet of our lives. The whole issue of education, for one. During slavery time and even after slavery time, it was a crime for a black child to be able to read and to be able to write. The whole issue of health care. We suffered tremendously during slavery and in post-slavery situation. The mortality rate of blacks, the infant mortality rate, the conditions in our community, those are all issues that might not be issues today, Chuck, if we had received reparations right upon the conclusion of slavery. We never had the opportunity with resources to build ourselves up, to build our communities up, the way other persons who have come to this country were able to do. We did not come to this country as others came to this country. We were not immigrants. We came here in chains. And the fact that we came here in chains is a situation that needs to be remedied, and that's what reparations is all about. This is not a new concept. It's not a concept that it would just affect African Americans in this country. Reparations is a long established principle of international law. Those of us who might feel it is simply begging the United States for handouts forgets the origins of African Americans in this country. We are the descendants of Africans who were illegally kidnapped and illegally transported to this country with the explicit complicity of the United States and every single arm of the United States lawmaking and law enforcing machinery. It's enshrined within the United States Constitution. The United States needs to redress this gross violation of international law.
Mm-hmm. Very eloquently put. Now, do you think that some of the problems that we have as a people, insofar as evidence of self-hatred and antisocial behavior, even amongst ourselves, some of the social ills, the pathological behavior that some of our people possess, do you think that it has its roots in slavery?
No question about it, absolutely. Our whole culture was simply snatched away from us. We were forbidden to use the drum. We were forbidden to use the names, our God-given names from the continent. Names were placed upon us. The mark of the oppressor became impressed upon our skulls. And anytime we sought to do anything to get out from under this type of cultural onslaught, we were tracked down, we were hounded down, we were lynched, we were murdered. It's really interesting. During slavery, they passed a law called the Fugitive Slave Act. It mandated that any white person had the responsibility, had the obligation, if we left that slave situation, to track us down and bring us back into that situation. It didn't matter if we had planned a widespread slave rebellion, such as Denmark Vesey or Nat Turner. It didn't matter if we we're trying to incite in any type of violence and to extricate ourselves for slavery. The most inoffensive person who simply decided that they wanted to slip away quietly in the night without causing harm to the slave owner or to any other white person. That simple, inoffensive person that Harriet Tubman, sought to bring along the path. That person also was going to be tracked down and brought back and subjected to bloodhounds and subjected again to the cruel inhumanity of slavery. It's a situation where it didn't matter if you were a revolutionary or whether you were an integrationist. You were going to be in the same. We were all in the same boat. We were all in the same bag. We all had the same situation and circumstances put upon us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to kind of put some realism in this, because I often think that while reparations is most certainly something that people of African descent deserve, is it really realistic in light of the fact that we have gridlock in Congress? They fought over the crime bill for who knows how long before they finally, under pressure, passed a watered-down version of the original one. The health care legislation is still dangling in the wind. It appears that there's so much political posturing and so much backbiting and fighting with these mainstream issues. How in the world are we ever going to get these same cast of characters to agree to pass legislation that most certainly is going to have some economic impact on this country through reparations? Is it realistic?
Well, let's put it this way. In 1987, legislation was passed in this country which gave survivors of Japanese American survivors of detention camps $20,000 for each survivor. It authorized a $1.5 billion trust fund to educate Americans about the suffering of the Japanese during that time. It issued an apology from the United States government to those persons who were illegally interned in detention camps. And it issued a pardon for all those who resisted detention camps. There was money for that. Many of us did not even know that process was happening at the time in which it was occurring. But there always seems to be money when other groups have been wronged. We need to really look seriously at the situation of African American people here in this country. Congress just found, I forgot how many $1 billion of money to pass a crime bill, a draconian crime bill that's going to serve to lock up more people than have ever been locked up in this nation's history. The cost of a jail cell is over $20,000 a year. You multiply that by the number of years in which these persons who have been slated for incarceration by the crime bill are going to be incarcerated, and you come up with billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. Now, maybe that money, instead of being funneled into a draconian, ineffectual crime bill that will not really make you or I any safer out there on the street, maybe if that same money could have been put in the reparations pot, then maybe we could have seen a real difference in the crime rate, for one. Persons might not have felt the need to go out and commit crimes of economic aggrandizement. The healthcare situation, persons might have more funds to simply fix their teeth, okay, or to deal with issues of malnourishment and the like. Persons might be able to have the funds for higher education. There have been many studies done that show the correlation between higher education and rate of recidivism in terms of going to jail. The more education people have, the less likely they are to commit crimes and go to jail. This money that was funneled into the crime bill could have been used, could have been gone into the reparations pot so that persons could have availed of those resources when we talk about reparations, we're not just talking about money going to individuals. We're also talking about money for various organizations to use in their organizings, various churches, various educational scholarships, land, technology, you name it. There are countless ways in which reparations monies can be used. It's not just to pocket the money. It's to serve to increase the vitality of the community as a whole.
Mm-hmm.